FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio. Allman in the morning. Common Sense Radio.
Good morning, you bunch of drunks.
Check out my Facebook page for the announcement coming from KTVI Channel 2 and from me that I will be joining KTVI as a contributor on a lot of their political stuff. And so we're going to be doing a bunch of projects and a bunch of shows with them. So I'm pleased to be back in television. I'll be staying put, obviously, here. But I thank all of you and all my guys at Emmis for making it possible for me to get back into TV. Looks like we're going to be able to add a little bit of Common Sense Radio on local TV. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to do that. Spencer Koch called in the show last week when we were talking about Bill Bonds, and Spencer is the GM there at KTVI, and News VP Audrey Pryorich all made this happen, and so they're good people over there. Well-known quantities and good quality people over there. And veterans, people who kind of know what they're doing and who you recognize their names. Even though maybe you don't always agree with some of them, and believe me, people will not agree with me, but that's kind of the specialness with which KTVI is approaching this. They want to mix it up, and good for them. I'm really proud to be part of it. So I put the whole announcement up there on my Facebook page, and I guess we can link it on ours, right? On the 97.112. All right. Well, thank goodness Jesus moved the storm from Tampa, for crying out loud.
Gratitude's been a predominant attitude in Tampa's Christian circles, as it looks like the city will escape much of Isaac's wrath. Reverend Justin Peters is part of an effort to cover the party conventions in prayer, and she says there's been plenty of prayer about Isaac in the last few days.
We have had lots and lots of people praying around the clock that it would move, and if you watch from the very beginning where they were saying it was coming and now where they're saying it's going, then it has really moved out of the way for us, and we appreciate God doing that and moving it for us.
So it makes you wonder what they did over there in the other parts of the country. That God shifted over there, huh? Kind of wonder what they're up to over there. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, good for God.
They weren't praying as hard.
I guess not. Anyway, moved out of Tampa, and sweet woman, what the heck? Not a bad I was watching, actually, the McNeil-Lehrer NewsHour on PBS, and the fact that I actually pay for it makes me always want to kind of make sure I keep them in line. And you know what? Actually, between them and the AP, they've been doing a really good job, in my opinion. The AP had this story, the preview for
Republicans, a moment in the political sun is darkened by storm clouds.
So it is my privilege to proclaim the 2012 Republican National Convention in session and called to order.
And though the party chairman opened the Republican National Convention, the brewing hurricane in the Gulf forced the GOP to scrap the first day's events. All eyes ought to be on Mitt Romney.
Our thoughts are with the people that are in the storm's path. And,
So anyway, the story goes on, and, I'm looking at it. I'm just trying to find any kind of a bias, because you see it all the time. And between PBS and the AP, I'm thinking, wow, they actually were more matter-of-fact about everything and laid it out and gave Romney all the props he needed and gave the Republican Party some of the spotlight. And, the PBS interviewed a bunch of really fairly decent people, party leaders and all kinds of folks. And it was a very impressive display, and I mean, it's great. These guys who we normally are crapping all over because of their bias and everything else and causing negative attention to Republicans, the people who are actually doing some of the negativity now are Republicans themselves. Front page of the paper today, there's Kit Bond talking about Todd Akin again. It's like, guys, really? I mean, this is our time to shine. Why are you the ones reminding everybody about the Todd Akin deal? I mean, why are Republicans the one who are doing it? I have no idea. Reince Priebus? Gee, goodness gracious. Can we get a guy who can handle himself against bullies and crap artists like Chris Matthews? This was on the Morning Joe, and Matthews just overran him. This should never have happened.
But I do think, in fairness,
and Brokaw too.
During the Republican debates and the primaries, that there was a lot of stuff aimed at the president that was not refuted by leaders of the party.
I refuted it every single time. I bet you 20 times on TV.
I'm not talking about the birthing thing as much as I am about he's a Muslim, he's a socialist, he's not American. John Sununu had to apologize for saying he doesn't know what it's like to be an American. That was a pretty tough attack. Now, I think it comes the other way, by the way, from the Democrats toward the Republicans as well. And I think that's what's made the country fed up with American politics, and it's a challenge for both parties.
Well, at that point, Priebus should have been right in Brokaw's face. First of all, saying, who in the Republican Party is calling Barack Obama a Muslim? And challenging a guy like Tom Brokaw to come up with some facts and just don't regurgitate stuff that you saw at some rally somewhere or on some blog someplace. And Priebus, for a number of times during and again, I'm not trying to blame the victim here. I mean, Priebus was surrounded by a screeching, squealing Chris Matthews, who was, I guess, enlivened by the live crowd or what have you, and Brokaw. But a couple of times, Scarborough had to intervene and defend Priebus when Priebus wasn't able to defend himself. And it just seemed to me it wasn't really a good stand. But then again, in the end, Priebus was right. He was.
Are you going to continue going on MSNBC?
What's that?
Are you going to continue going on MSNBC after that?
Well, sure. I mean, I'm happy to go on MSNBC. I tell you what, Joe and Mika, they weren't too happy about it. The feeling in the room was clearly that there was a lot of unhappiness directed toward Chris. I don't really care. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, if more than 10 people actually watch this show, I'd actually care, but they don't.
Well, I mean, he's right about that, but it makes me kind of miss Michael Steele to a certain degree. These guys who are the party chairman, they always seem to be, I don't know, not up for the task. Newt, though, got him a piece of Chris Matthews.
You know, it's amazing how, you know how African Americans generally, at least the people who have emailed me in the last couple of hours today, how they react to this? Do you understand they have a reaction? They think this is racial talk? That this whole thing about welfare cheats is just relentless stuff.
I think there are a lot of people in America who listen to people like you, who tell them all day, who tell them all day, every day how they should see everything. So it's my influence on them. You just had a panel where the guy who was black was telling the two guys who were white they were nuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and the two guys who are white are going, gee, why are you not more sensitive to being black? I think Michael Steele knows he's black. I don't think this is a great shock to him.
But you can laugh about it, but you don't think that you've used it in the past. What's a food stamp president?
Food stamp president's a guy whose policies are so destructive that he creates the longest unemployment since the Great Depression, and he puts more people on food stamps, most of them white, than anybody else. Why do you assume?
Why do you assume food stamps recipients are all black? And he points out the whole white guilt aspect of Chris Matthews, and Matthews was either just on something yesterday or what it was, but he was on a tear, and Gingrich was the only one, it seemed, able to stop him. And boy, he did, didn't he? 969-9797, 866-455-9797. Another Geico guy is fired for talking politics, or at least getting his nose in it. And we'll give you an update on the impending storm on the Gulf Coast.